Well, hello, and welcome back to Read Becca. You're here for my goals, and unfortunately, or fortunately for me, I have nothing to offer you. So this is going to be kind of a rambly, chatty video on my decision to not have goals in 2026, really. So this is definitely not a video where I'm going to say goals are bad and I'm getting rid of them because they're awful. Goals serve a purpose. They're a tool, and they have very much served that purpose in my life. I think if you're someone who likes the planning process of goals and can get by at the end of the year if you failed all your goals, but you enjoyed the planning, like that's perfectly fine. If you are someone who wants to have success at your goals, you probably should go ahead and collect data first and then make some measurable, attainable, realistic goals that you can observe over the year and achieve those things and continually alter yourself until you're reaching a point where you feel some success. And I feel I'm in the later category. I know I've mentioned this before in the past that I went through a period in my life where I just threw myself into my career after college, and I sort of lost all of the things that I enjoyed in life outside of work. I just let them fall away, and reading was one of those things. So for me, goals began years before I was ever on BookTube as a method of getting myself back on track with the things I enjoyed. And so I started really small comparatively to where I am today in having just really basic goals, simple number goals. And at that point, I was only aiming for one book a month and one comic book or a graphic novel a month, and barely hit that within the year. So going from that to where I am today, where a couple years ago I got rid of a number goal entirely. I stopped even trying to hit anything or achieve anything in numeric book counts because I read about 150 books a year without really trying. I've just incorporated reading so significantly over those years as a result of the goals that I had that now it's just part of my day, my life. And it's significantly incorporated to where I don't have to try or be seeking to achieve. Then my goals got kind of more complicated, more specific, because goals being tools, we're pushing and pulling ourselves in directions toward behavioral change in ways that we want to achieve. And so I was trying to target all of those sort of problem areas for myself. I think as a fantasy reader, we all want to be tackling those series more that we're not getting to. And I would like to be better at that. But I feel like even this year, I really made some significant improvements. And yet I also felt like I wasn't putting a lot of effort toward that. So it was just kind of naturally happening that I was doing the things I wanted to. My reading life and diet were hitting a lot of the points that I've been tackling the past couple of years. So my goals overall for 2025 have been very successful for the most part in general goals. Where I have utter failure, I know, because every year it's the same couple things that I fail on, and I massively fail on. Like complete and total failure on anything where I assign myself a specific book or author. And this year in 2025 was no different. It was, I read one thing of all of those types of goals. One book. And so I just am at the point where I'm pretty happy with all of the types of goals that I have set, except for that. And we're at the point of diminishing returns, really, where I'm just pretty happy. And I don't feel like I need to push or pull myself in a direction on that particular thing. But because I've had all of these goals and set targets and tried things like that and failed at goals, I've learned a lot about myself as a reader. And doing that in a really measurable way and understanding that, I now can know about myself that setting that goal as a year-long goal is going to be super ineffective, right? Saying I need to read these authors over the course of the year. Because I think what I figured out is that I sort of file it mentally as I know about this, so it's not anything I need to deal with right now. Like it's long-term. And then I say, okay, the immediate stuff can come ahead of that. Well, I never refile from the long term to the immediate for any of those things. And now knowing that about myself, I can know that I'm going to be so much more effective if rather than saying, I want to read these authors over the course of this year, if I go, okay, I want to target this author and do a reading blog and read three of their books in the next couple of weeks or month. Like that's something I will almost certainly be successful at. And so it is a failure from the individual goal perspective, but those goals have helped me enrich myself as a reader who knows themselves so much more that I can be successful at actually getting to the books by doing it a different way. So what that means for 2026 is that I'm getting rid of year-long goals. I think I will still do things like monthly TBRs, definitely. I never tackle those as I must read these things. They're always kind of options. And I do very well at keeping 2-month TBRs, though not within the month. I often within 2 to 3 months have read almost entirely that TBR. And that's fine. That's something I'm perfectly happy with. I'm not very rigid to my lists. I also really do expect I will still be participating in readathons in the same way that I do already, which is very flexibly, and I use them more as an inspiration to pick a book or a theme of my reading for the month rather than directly following a lot. But for the year, I'm not committing to any particular readathons. I think right this moment, the one I'm most expecting I will participate in all year is going to be the new year-long readathon, the TBR Spa readathon, being put on by Jen the Librarian and Carrie's Books, which is kind of inspired by women's magazine quizzes and has kind of flowcharts that you go through to get your prompt. And then I did go through for January's and look at it, and I had a particular prompt in mind, but it also led me to a specific book, but I don't remember. I don't remember what the prompt or the book were, but I'm sure as soon as I look at it again, I will know what it is. I have some buddy reads lined up, mainly because Dia of Novel Idea is very on top of and loves planning buddy reads for the whole year. So I have some lined up there. I've got some long-running, long-term, ongoing buddy reads that are continuing. I've got a few other random ones lined up very nebulously, and those are not going anywhere. Outside of goals, I do think I have some reading intentions for the year of 2026 that I'm looking ahead to. The big one, and I've kind of projected this every year in my goals the past couple years, where I set up my goals and then I pretty consistently have said, I'm also feeling really drawn toward history and historical fiction, so I'm going to keep an eye on that for the year. And I think I've said that for like 3 years, and every time I collect the information, I'm like, yeah, I'm actually reading a good amount of that. But I'm continuing to feel it. And I've been feeling it even more lately, to the point that I'm reading a lot of stuff that sends me down a rabbit trail. And normally when I do that, I'll find a book about that topic and put it on a TBR or wish list, whatever. And then of course never get to it, right? Because my wish lists are so long. And so I think, again, right this minute, this may totally change in a few weeks from now, or something will happen in the world and I will completely shift. But for right this moment, I think 2026 is going to be the year of history for me. And there is a great readathon, Historathon, that is year-long and it's split up in 2 quarters. And that the quarter is a period of time, so a couple hundred years. So like the first quarter is antiquity through like year 500, I think. I can't remember off the top of my head. And chronologically, over the course of the year, each quarter is a different time period. So I think that's even too much structure for me right now. So I may participate, but it will probably be purely by accident because I read things that fit in there. I'm not committing to it, at least for now. But I think that I've been feeling that draw so significantly, and I've kind of talked about it repeatedly and never put any structure around it. And I'm still not putting any structure around it, but I'm going to very much lean in to that feeling that I'm having and really reach for the nonfiction history, I think. And probably I will broaden that wider to just nonfiction in general. I think it's going to go up this year, but history specifically is something that I really want to spend some time in. I've been turning to Wikipedia an awful lot lately, to what I was saying just a moment ago, where often I put things on lists. Lately, I've been really having that immediacy of going and researching something as I'm hearing about it. And that has just made me so much more passionate about all these topics. I'm so excited to dive into history and areas of history that I'm not even familiar with, because I have a pretty poor history background in terms of like schooling and formalized learning. So yeah, I'm really excited about that. The other thing, back to what I mentioned about the wish lists being miles long. I really have an intention for this year that I want to do more try-a chapters that may or may not be on video or like sort of video projects. I just want to sample things more, I think, because I have those very lengthy wish lists. And even if I'm not knocking things off of those wish lists by trying them out, I don't think that's even a goal for me, really. Like, that may happen, but it's kind of unlikely. I'm pretty good at self-selecting for things that I'm going to like rather than things that I will totally bounce off of. But of course that can always happen. But I think last time I did a try a chapter video, it was a couple years ago, and I liked all of the books. But what I got more out of that was that all the books were not right for me in that time, and I got a sense for when the right time would be. So things like I read, or I tried Marlowe Murder Club in that video a couple years ago, and I knew I would like it when I got to it, but it was the one that least was calling to me in that video, and I really did not want to read it at that time. So I just got to it a couple months ago, knew it was the right time for that book because I had tried it, and I had a fantastic, fantastic experience with it because of that. So I think trying things, even if I enjoy all of them when I try out the sample, I think I can place better when I'm going to have the optimal reading experience with that book when I want to pick it up. Like, where can I fit this in and I'm gonna have a great time with it versus just reading it. And so I think I need that to help me have those options from my wish lists more rapidly, because otherwise they're just nebulously out there until I stumble across them somewhere, you know? So I want to try to do that more. So I think those are really the big points that I have for looking ahead to 2026. And actually, it's kind of a weird phenomenon going in without goals. And even so, as I'm filming this, I don't often film ahead really, but I happen to have a couple of single book videos, and now obviously I'm filming this a little bit ahead. I think this will probably go up on January 1st. And I'm not super ahead, but I have a couple of days ahead to January. And I don't even have ideas of what I want on my January TBR right now, which is very, very unusual. And I kind of have a ritual as well for January 1st, so New Year's Day. I do a very leisurely process of refreshing my year TBR. I have a Billy bookcase from IKEA, and 4 of the shelves on that are my year's TBR. And I have completely wiped that shelf and replaced all of the books on it at times, but I think my preference most years and this year, I only remove the books from that shelf that I read during the preceding year on New Year's Day. And then I leisurely browse through all my shelves and pick out books that are really calling to me, that I feel fit in with my reading vibe, and I select them down and whittle down to what will fill the gap in the books that I removed that I had read the previous year. And I feel right now that that shelf is super strong, that what's already on there unread, and that's why I don't want to turn it over, because like every book I'm like, this is such a great book, but yet why am I not reading it? I need to get to those books. And I think it's kind of the same problem that I'm mentioning with the different filing of books when I assign myself long-term. And so I need to figure out some ways of approaching that short-term, and I will figure that out on the fly, I think, over the year in probably multiple different various ways, most likely with different types of projects and trying to fit them into monthly TBRs. But that basic like functional refresh and reset, I think is so nice. And now looking at this aspect of having canceled goals really feels somewhat like that as well. It feels like this is an optimistic look forward into 2026 with a complete clean slate, where I don't really have a clear plan for what books are going to be on my TBR for January, or even what I'm looking forward to. I don't know. I haven't really thought about it, and I haven't had to work to not think about it, which is kind of unusual. Normally, I am constantly like racking up in my mind that back counter of all the books I want to get to, and I haven't had that, and that I think is bringing me joy right now. So an optimistic and hopeful clean slate, I think, is what I'm telescoping for 2026 right now. And it just means that I have all that space and room to explore. I know we all love the theorizing about goals and whether or not they're effective. I think my goals have been useful. They have served their purpose, and now I'm ready to move forward. I've incorporated all of these things into my life as standard practices, and I'm so happy about that and feel really good about my reading life and where it's at now, that I can just go exploring and forage in my bookshelves, I guess, and see what 2026 brings. And I may bring back goals at the end of the year, at the end of 2026, if there are things that are cropping back up in like problem behaviors I want to address. But for now, I'm feeling great, and I'm looking forward to my reading in 2026 without a lot of structure or goals. So I think that has been a good solid ramble, and this may or may not have been useful to anyone, but at least me thinking through it and expressing where I'm at mentally was helpful to me. Hopefully it was maybe interesting to you to hear my thought process. And if it wasn't, and you think I'm going to completely and utterly go off the rails as a result of not having goals, then harangue me in the comments. Feel free, and we can both look back on this in a few months once I am completely falling apart in my reading life and laugh at myself. Past me. So with that, I will say thank you so very much for being here and watching, and Happy New Year.